Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Friend Shot Pearson, and welcome again to my channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday, October 4th of 2024, 8:32 in the a.m. Hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day. Let's say it together. Praise our God from whom all blessings flow. Well, people, the longshoremen's port strike has grind to a temporary halt. The longshore port strike has grind to a temporary halt. I'm sure a lot of you all heard about it last night. I was doing some research on some other things and got back with it. As I began to do my due diligence on this subject, something spoke to my spirit. You see, many times the powers, they utilize events to tell stories. They reach to the past, bring it to the present, so they can tell you about the future. You might not come to the same conclusion that I do, but I'm telling you, this longshore strike, although I do believe it was legit, I've showed you in past videos how I believe they've had their hands in it. The colors were just there. They bolted out. The 5 C's went to work. And yes, the 5 C's are speaking here again, like I said, from the past. I want to show you is that this is another opportunity for them to let you know that in the future, that Donald J. Trump will become unalived. Believe it or not, it's connected to this. And I will show you the historical content and we'll move it forward. There are a lot of videos in this because I have to prep this for the history. But it's good to know the history so you can see the future. Because again, I do believe there is a connect. Enjoy.
As well. Well, this is what we know. The union representing those 45,000 striking U.S. dock workers at ports up and down the eastern.
Those 45,000 dock workers. Did you hear it? 45,000 dock workers.
Seaboard and the Gulf Coast. Well, they have reached a deal with the U.S. Maritime Alliance to suspend their strike until January the 15th to provide time to negotiate a
45,000 dock workers, people. Who's the 45th president? Donald J. Trump. And they're going to temporarily go with this until January 15th. Who was born? Who died on January 15th? Dr. King. Why is that important? Just hold tight, I'll show you. Just want you to listen to the clues. Listen to the clues.
As well. Well, this is what we know. The union representing those 45,000 striking U.S. dock workers at ports up and down the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast. Well, they have reached a deal with the U.S. Maritime Alliance to suspend their strike until January the 15th to provide time to negotiate a new contract. That's according to a person briefed on the matter to Fox here. So the strike is over. For now, there's this 90-day window for talks to continue. This is tentative at the moment here. If talks break down past January 15th, presumably the strike will go into effect. But they have bought themselves time here. The union, remember, the International Longshoremen's Association, will resume working immediately, at least until January the 15th. The agreement.
January 15th. Here is one of the reps. It isn't quite Tiffany blue, but again, in the Tiffany blue family. Phoenician. Listen to him.
this, because this agreement amounts to what, about $4 per hour raise for each year of the 6-year contract. That's not the 77% pay raise workers were demanding, but was it enough to suspend the strike, and why was that?
Yes, it was enough to suspend the strike to get talks back going again. At the end of the day, ultimately, nobody wants to strike, but sometimes, unfortunately, our workforce, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that our voices are heard and our members are compensated, fairly for the labors that they contribute to the industry.
Now, one part of this was the compensation. The other part was automation. What's the bigger issue here for striking workers?
Well, actually, sometimes I know we get very comfortable with using automation. We use the self-checkouts, but I don't think, not only me, a lot of us don't think about the long-term effects of what automation can do. I can recall when I first started working.
I agree with this gentleman. Like I said, I believe it's a legitimate presentation. Automation is killing America. The story he was about to tell was back in the day, Henry Ford, where we can have automation do the work that a human can do. Then the response was, well, if you get a robot or automation to take X amount of workers' place and they're quote unquote more efficient, who's going to buy the cars? The answer is very few, because nobody's going to be working. It's a balancing act. I've said long before, do we keep progressing to the point where we put ourselves out of work? Believe it or not, that is the one world plan. Now I want you to notice some of the colors here. I want you to see it. I'm going to stop it as it happens. Watch this. And the symbols.
Our workforce, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that our voices are heard and our members are
Look at that. Death and the skull and the bones. Death with skull and bones. What is skull and bones? That's 322. Okay? You guys who rocking with me, you know what time it is. Death and skull and bones, 322, secret societies. Is this coincidence that they have these frame shots? Watch this.
Are compensated, fairly for the labors that they contribute to the industry.
Then you have here, remember I told you, the rock colors are usually orange and yellow, or red and yellow, and then you got the C. What does that remind you of? Remember I did the video this past week on Kamala Harris, and in her book, the questions have been talking about her. I did that video and I showed you the Phoenicians. You've got to watch that video because it's deep and it's timely. And in the video, you will see Kamala Harris with her mother or grandmother, and you have the rock colors of red and gold. And then she's got on that shirt, there is a sailboat on there, and the two colors of like purple and Tiffany blue. You gotta watch this video. And she's got seashells on her neck. Inside seashells or clams is a purple dye, Phoenician. You're just gonna have to school yourself, people. Sorry, it's a lot of education. You have to understand how they talk. If you don't know, you gotta do the research. Just check out the video. So similar there, sailboat and the rock colors. Is that coincidence? And you got the black and the white. That means the checkerboard is at work. They play both sides. They play Republican against Democrat and vice versa.
Now, one part of this was the compensation. The other
so
part.
So now we go from there. And there's your Tiffany blue again as a border. Do you see? It's all there. Okay, let's go further. Here's a rep being interviewed. Check out the language.
Man, tell me what you just heard.
We just heard that we reached a deal on the two most important things to us in these negotiations. Number one, we have the language that we need for to fight against automation. There'll be no fully automated terminals or semi-automated terminals on the east and the Gulf Coast of the United States over the next 6 years, in the life of this new contract. The other thing that we were very proud of achieving in this
Over the next 6 years. 6.
automated terminals on the east and the Gulf Coast of the United States over the next 6 years, in the life of this
6. Man was created on the 6th day. When you become unalive, you go 6 feet under. Okay? Just listen.
new contract. The other thing that we were very proud of achieving in this 3 days of tough bargaining was the fact that we agreed on a wage package that was robust enough that would allow us to go back to work, and we will continue to negotiate on the rest of the items over the next 90 days, which will take us into January. So I guess the most exciting piece for all of us is that our men and women are
They're going back to work. They negotiated. They got a piece of it done. Okay? Now, check this out. This gentleman disagrees with the automation part. Just want to make it fair and balanced, but listen to him.
You hit on how one union has the ability to hold the economy hostage with regard to that. Explain it.
Well, that's right. And you know, first of all, while the ports are going back to work today, wholesale distributors, we don't get to go back to normal today because there's going to possibly be a strike 3 months from today. And so now we have to take all of the costly measures that we've been taking in the last few months. We have to continue those to prepare for another possible disruption. So our lives don't get easier. And as we've talked about in this program, one of the major issues that are remaining is whether or not we can introduce automation to the ports. And what the American people need to understand is we are so far behind the rest of the world, and this really has an inflationary impact. You know, I agree that certainly the folks at the docks are working hard and deserve a fair increase, but think about every dollar that we put into their pockets means that everything that flows through those ports costs more money. So there's an inflationary impact. If we were to move to automation,
If we were to move to automation, in his view, we could compete with the Chinese and everything else. It's not a fair argument. The Chinese work for much less. They don't have unions. They got sweatshops. They don't have the regulations that we have. And with this global system, the paradigm, the infrastructure is not fair. So it's not a fair argument. In my humble opinion, the globalists are winning and they're destroying America. So you have to push for your wages. If we start making more things overseas, we don't have to worry about competing with China. That's my spill on it. Just want you to hear the balance of what this guy is talking about. Now, before I go any further, I need to say something. Biden administration was a part of this negotiation, okay? So I give them their props. The port strike is ended, that is to say, temporarily, until January 15th of 2025. I asked myself, why January 15th of 2025? Isn't that Dr. King's birthday? The longshore workers have the wording for a pay raise and the reduction, if you will, on automation, which hurts their employment. Now, I'm not sure if all have heard from the rumor mill that across the country, truckers, get this, truckers were complaining of hearing noises and screams on their loads, that is from within the boxes of the delivery. That's interesting, don't you think? In other words, have you guys heard about it? That one of the major reasons for the strike is allegedly there were people inside the cargo on these trucks? Put in the comment section if you heard that. Okay. Now I've done my research, and yes, it's on social media. Okay. Now let's go forward. To me, there's a Dr. King connection. Why? Because back in the day, there was a strike. Why do I bring it up? Fair question. Remember, it's been said This is a temporary agreement until January 15th. Whose birthday is January 15th? Dr. King. Dr. King's birthday is January 15th. So here we go. January 15th. And his death date is April 4th, the 4-4. Now let me begin. Okay, listen to this here. Yes, Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968 to support a labor strike by sanitation workers. On February 12, 1968, over 1,100 black sanitation workers in Memphis went on strike to demand better working conditions, higher pay, and the right to form a union. The strike was a response to the deaths of 2 garbage collectors who were crushed by a malfunctioning truck in early 1968. So, history has repeated itself. In 1968, black men predominantly was working in Memphis for the sanitation workers. Dr. King came and spoke to help them with their cause. So, they had a strike then, and now we got a strike now. Dr. King's birthday is January 15th. The strike that ended yesterday the negotiation starts back up the same day that Dr. King's birthday is. Don't you find that very suspicious? And what happened to Dr. King the day after he spoke there? King traveled to Memphis on April 3rd, 1968 to support the striking workers and delivered his famous, quote, "I've been to the mountaintop," unquote, speech at Mason Temple. Mason Temple, 33. I'm going to show you the 33 later on. He also led a march with thousands of protesters down Beale Street in Memphis. King was assassinated April 4th. So the day after the strike, Dr. King was killed. The day after he spoke about the strike, the next day he killed on a balcony in Lorraine Motel. The strike ends. The strike ended 12 days after King's assassination, with the city government agreeing to recognize the union and increase wages. A lot of people don't know the history. That's why I'm giving you the history. Not to insult anybody. I want you to see how the powers allegedly are playing this. Now listen to this here. Here's a member of the sanitation union, sanitation strike workers back in the day. Check it out.
Through some of the people at the union hall said Dr. King was coming to Memphis, and during that time, I was glad for him to come. I think everybody was glad for him to come. We thought maybe we'd get some justice that way. People was glad to see Dr. King. You'd be surprised how people were so glad to see Dr. King. Everybody said, Dr. King on March one day, and you seen people, seen garbage men, different people starting march together. Because we heard he was coming to march, and they had a great march during that time. His voice, that's his peers to him to come here, did a lot for the city of Memphis. When he got shot, they said, Dr. King just got shot. Everything in Memphis broke out. Everything. Some places in Memphis you couldn't go. They had army trucks.
They sent the army, people. They sent the army. They had a lockdown. I want you to understand what transpired after that. King got unalive, and boom, here come the lockdown. The police, when I did my video, it brought back memories of how I used to study American history, this time black history. The police were basically picking and prodding them, unnecessarily so. It was a peaceful protest, and that's what Dr. King was pushing, a peaceful protest, but agitators came. Listen to my key words, because I believe it speaks to the future. You see those tanks on American property? Are you kidding me? For a sanitation strike? Are you kidding me? You think it won't happen again? Listen.
In February, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, some 1,300 sanitation workers, members of Local 1733 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, began a strike. This wasn't an ordinary strike. We forged together a coalition of the religious community, the civil rights community, and the labor movement. It was a struggle for freedom, for dignity, for decency, for equality.
Back in those days, we had to do this to live. The treatment that we were getting. Sometimes I just feel like tears are coming my eyes.
And we just got tired. We had meetings and discussed it and said, we're going to do something about it. Said they were one.
So they went on strike. Now, this is Elvis Presley, obviously with his wife. They had a newborn. And you will find out, if you read your history, when there is a major movement, especially social in America, and even in the financial, if there's a banking issue or something major going on overseas, hint, hint, the news will simultaneously use other events to keep you focused on that as opposed to other major issues. And this birth of Elvis, I believe his daughter at the time, to me, when you did the history, it was used as a way to keep folks focused on that and not on the social movement of the sanitation strike. So check it out.
Now, what made these matters worse is the fact that the families, they weren't compensated as they should have been because these men, they died while working. And sadly, this was actually legal. The city did not, legally, the city did not have to compensate these families. And the city did not care. They did not show an appropriate amount of remorse.
Now, what he's getting at is this. There were two workers on the truck. And you know, there's a compactor on the garbage truck. Somehow the compactor malfunctioned and they were crushed by the compactor. And this is one of the reasons they kicked off this strike. Unfair wages, disrespect, operations, all that. So check it out.
For the fact that these two men lost their lives due to faulty equipment. So the strike is going to begin on February 12, 1968. African Americans decide that they are not going to collect garbage and instead they're going to protest wearing these, they're called sandwich boards with, and so you can just imagine just how effective this was, because when the garbage workers are not collecting the garbage, just imagine the smell, imagine the scene, because garbage doesn't stop. But these workers decided that they are going to protest in order to receive better working conditions as a result of the loss of these two lives. And
so there's your brief history. Now here's Dr. King speaking in relation to that, the strike.
That this city will respect the dignity of labor. So often we overlook the worth and the significance of those who are not in professional jobs, of those who are not in the so-called big jobs. But let me say to you tonight that whenever you are engaged in work that serves humanity and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity and it has worth.
So this was a beautiful time. People spoke up. They got their union. They challenged the mayor. But again, I believe that it's not an accident that the Longshore Union, the port strike, negotiations start back up January 15th, which is this man's birthday. There's no way you're gonna make me believe that. It's symbolic. And you know what happened to him at the end. Well, guess what? Who's gonna have to negotiate this strike again? Because the inauguration is January 20th. That's 5 days away. If Trump gets back up in there, he's gonna have to deal with it. Do you follow my logic? They're speaking without speaking through these events. Now, here's a photograph I've showed before. Dr. King was killed at Lorraine Motel. This man is said to have arranged the hotel where they stayed at, and it's alleged that he changed the room several times, and they wind up being in room 306. That's 36 is 666. And I've showed in other videos that he had on purple. Purple is a Phoenician. Is this an accident? It's also been said that this man is saying, this is Reverend Jesse Jackson, saying that he was right there on the balcony when Dr. King got shot. Well, other reports are saying he was not. He was down. He was down at the bottom on the floor, and he ran up as Dr. King got shot and put his hands on Dr. King's chest, and then wiped his hands on his shirt with the blood. And then when the press got there, he was speaking. This, you can do your history. It's all there. I'm not making nothing up, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying the history. Purple is Phoenician. Is that coincidence? And 306, 36 is 666. Now let's go a little bit further. It's deep. Now listen to this here. This is brought to you by Dick Gregory and another black man who have files on preachers, particularly this one, Dr. Billy Cowles, who talked about he was in the room with Dr. King. It was 3 preachers at the time. Billy Cowles was one of them. And listen to him what he said happened on Dr. King. He was standing right next to Dr. King. Again, he was standing right next to Dr. King when Dr. King got killed. Listen how he describes what happened.
To the phone and call Dr. King and said, any of the marches that we had in those days, you have an opportunity to bring the children and bring the family and march with us. And when I finished sharing with them the last hour of Dr. King's life, a hurry. But that gave me the wonderful privilege of spending the last hour on earth. 3 preachers in a room, Abernathy, King, and Kyle. And we spent that last hour together in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel.
306.
The press is always curious, and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I say, we just talk preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together.
Y'all pay
revivals and all
what you're fixing to hear now.
About 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out. Thank you.
Did you hear that? Only when I moved out the way, the guy could have a clear shot and the shot rang out. Was that a Freudian slip? Listen, they're on the balcony together. He moved out the way and Dr. King got shot. Listen.
And he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out. Thank you. I turned around and
it's deep. Black Independence Day. Check it out. Now, I want to show you some numbers because the 5 C's went to work. Check this out. The strike ended yesterday, October 3rd of 2024. Election is 11/5/2024, our election. The difference is 33 days. Remember I told you I was going to show you the 33? 33 is Masonic. Dr. King was at that Masonic temple, right? Right? Where he was giving his speech. And the next day he was unalive. 33. Yesterday's date, 10/3/2024. Strike ended temporarily versus 1/15. Dr. King's birthday. Coming up 2025, renegotiation starts again. The difference is 3 months, 1 week, 6 days. Look at that, 316. I've been telling y'all for months, what did the Lord show me? He said, this year and going forth, the powers are going to keep showing 316. What is 316? The Bible. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, hallelujah, that whomsoever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. They're creating scenarios allegedly to blaspheme the Lord. To me, it's pointing in the future somebody about to be sacrificed. Yesterday's agreement to temporarily stop the strike, 10-3, versus renegotiation, January 15th, Dr. King's birthday of next year. The difference is 316, 3 months, 1 week, 6 days, 316. Come on, man. Come on. That's a mathematical improbability, including the end date. It's still 316. Then look at this here. Yesterday, the strike ended 10/3/2024 versus Barack Obama's birthday, August 4th, 2024. The difference is 8 weeks and 4 days. Come on, man. 84. What is that? Barack Obama was born August 4th. Is that coincidence? August 4th versus what? The day the strike ended? Come on, man. A lot of folks believe he the AC. Okay, then check this out. This is Trump's birthday, 6/14/2024, just had a birthday. Versus what? 4/4 of 2024. What is 4/4? Well, let's look at it together. Dr. King died on 4/4/1968. Trump's birthday, 4/4 of 2024, anniversary of Dr. King being killed. The difference is what? 10 weeks and 1 day. What does that mean, Pearson? Didn't the strike happen on October 1st? Do you feel me? The Longshore strike just started on October 1st. What are the odds that you got Trump's birthday, 6/14 of this year, and now Dr. King's birthday of this year, and the difference is exactly 10/1, October 1st. Come on, man, come on. Think they ain't speaking? I'm telling y'all, they use events to speak. Now, some of this is going to be repetitive, but I'm going to go down the road. Right, it did 10/1. Look at this. Dr. King was fighting the Vietnam War. That's a no-no. He was only supposed to deal with national issues. From the research I did, Dr. King was a boule. That's what they say, a boule. And yeah, he wasn't supposed to deal with international issues. Once he did, they had to take him out because he was against the Vietnam War. Well, what is Trump dealing with? He gonna have to deal with the Middle East war. You see the connection? Dr. King was dealing with a sanitation workers strike. January 15th, if Trump becomes president, he's got to deal with the Longshore strike on Dr. King's birthday. He's going to have to deal with it. Why? Because 5 days later, on January 20th, Trump would be sworn in as president. Do you follow me? 6/14 of 2025 is Trump's next birthday versus 1/15 of 2025. Negotiation starts again for what? The longshoreman strike. The difference is exactly 4 months and 4 weeks, 4/4. Why is that important? Well, King died on 4/4. What are the odds? And guess what? Barack Obama was our 44th president. Ain't that deep? Now you take 6/14 again, Trump's birthday, 2024, versus 1/15, 2025. The day the negotiations start again. The difference is 216 days. What's 216? August 4th is the 216th day of the year. Barack Obama was born August 4th. What are the odds? Then you got here, we skip over this because we showed this already, the 33 and the 316. We showed that, hallelujah. If you take 10/3, the day that what? The strike just ended yesterday, 10/3/2024, versus 11/20, which is Joe Biden's birthday, They said that the Biden administration helped negotiate this. The difference is 48 days. What is 48? What happened on April 8th? There was an eclipse. There was an X came across the world. What is X? That's when they take you out. And lastly, no, that's it. Tell me what you think, people. I know it was long. I apologize for it. But I am convinced the longshore strike was utilized as a way to tell a story in the future. And it's coming, trust me. Trust me. October 1st, January 15th. Come on, baby. They're telling you a story about Mr. 614. That's what they're telling you to me. They're telling you that in the future, that 614, Donald Trump's birthday, versus 4/4, the demise of Dr. King, the difference is 10-1. That's a mathematical improbability. The strike began on October 1st. I'm Friendship Pearson. I appreciate you guys being here. If you think it's valuable for you, please support the channel. I have Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, and PayPal. I also have a P.O. Box, Friendship Pearson, P.O. Box 13116, Chicago, Illinois, 60613. I'll put it in the description. God bless you and God bless America. We got to endure, people. We got to endure. God bless.